Welcome to the Burning Pallets podcast, sponsored by Texsource. Here's your host, Ryan Boland.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan here with the Burning Pallets podcast. Right beside the M&R booth. Beside us is Mike Hoy.
Hey, everybody.
It's day 3. I've announced Mike's name 25 times in a row. And in the middle is Jesse Martinez with Matsui.
Hello, everyone.
A lot of you guys out there know, if you're dealing with water-based, know Jesse. Everybody in this trade show knows of Jesse Martinez if you've dealt with Matsui or water-based or anything. Well-known in the industry, a lot of knowledge on water-based, and just going to pick his brain on a couple things and see how he handles it.
I'm ready.
But you talked about wanting to do podcasts too, because water-based, people are scared of the print with water-based. Small shops, big shops, whoever they are scared to print with water-based. So that would be the point of you wanting to do podcasts, to educate the customers how easy it is.
Yes, that is correct. I just feel like there's not enough knowledge and enough information about printing water-based, even though water-based has been around a lot longer than plastisol, which is pretty surprising. And I feel that the best way to help everyone out there is to start putting more information out there. We have all these great tools, social media, now with AI, it's like there's so many opportunities to put more information out there.
Mike, you ever been more of a water-based printer before coming to Texsource?
Well, I mean, there's times where we've definitely over the years we've dabbled in it. Especially like on the discharge side, you like throwing that in there.
Yeah.
But I think that it's when, especially in big companies, it's when the marketplace and the company makes a decision that we want to get away from the materials that are in the plastisols. And that sort of drives the market from top down. And so that's where because we were told at Adidas for 5 years in a row, we're switching to all water-based, I mean, that they said that, right? And we were all waiting in fear, oh my God. But it's one of those things, like anytime you're in a scenario where you don't know how it's going to work, there's a fear there. And when you can get over that fear, but only by wading into the water base.
It seems like a lot of the water-based companies, even Matsui, you guys are more of a mixing system. You have tons of different inks. I mean, Matsui has tons, 4 or 5 different whites, discharge. But I do know you have a mixing system, and it seems like a lot of the water-based guys only really have mixing systems, not ready for use colors. Is that because of the life?
Yeah. So in water-based, because we have so many options, and just to clarify, discharge, is probably one of the first ones that comes up in conversation in most shops first.
Yeah.
Many people call it water-based, but we need to call it what it is: discharge.
I stand corrected.
Yes. It is a water-based product, but it's more of a dyeing process. It's more of a chemical reaction.
Yes.
So it's not a true ink, and I think that's where a lot of people get confused when printing water-based. When you're discharging, you're removing the dye from the fabric and replacing it with another pigment, making that a re-dye process.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why discharge sometimes gets a bad rap in that it looks like it's vintage. And some people like that.
Yes.
People want that.
I love it.
Yeah,
they love it. They sell
great.
it like that.
But they stretch it, first thing they do, they want to pull it and they see it all coming apart. Then they think it's not working properly. And they don't realize that chemical reaction or that re-dyeing process is basically going into the fabric. So there is no bridging. There's no connection there. So it's not going to have a stretching.
So, I mean, like when we teach our classes, plastisol sits on top, discharge is inside, is dyed into the fabric. But standard water base, it still sits on top of the fabric some, but it soaks into the garment as well.
Yeah. So the next levels of water-based printing, would be low solids and high solids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always confusing.
Yeah. See, other people they're starting to scratch their heads that are watching this right now.
Yes, and we don't do it on purpose. Water-based has become an ink solution for when certain customers are looking for certain results, and that has forced the water-based companies to produce different types of ink solutions for them because of substrate, thinner fabrics, polyesters, or softer hand. So low solids would be more like discharge, similar, but not as soft. Okay, and that is also going to allow you to print through higher mesh counts and also be able to print with more confidence because it's not going to dry as quickly as a traditional water base.
Low solids.
Low solids.
Yeah. Yes.
Low solids, less scary.
Correct. So low solids is going to replace traditional water base. So for all of you out there that have printed with water base maybe 20, 30 years ago and said, I don't want to touch it, I don't like it, it dries too fast, this low solid solution, or they call it soft hand water base, is the newest technology in water-based printing that will allow you to print more comfortably and with more confidence.
We're going to keep talking about the low solids, but a lot of beginning screen printers, they go to Hobby Lobby to get started, and the Hobby Lobby has that, I don't know what the water base is there.
Speedball kit?
Speedball.
Yeah. So we get with a lot of beginners, we have them come in with a speedball. Like, I'm using speedball and I need this, and we transition or get them into the right product. But we do see people starting off with the speedball,
and they get the
but it's not
they get
good.
the wrong idea because they think maybe they're printing with plastisol.
I don't know what they think, but it's not the right thing.
Yeah, I've mixed feelings about people because I ask them, so did you get a speedball kit? Yes, and I'm like, okay, let's start from here, and I got to deconstruct.
But the low solids, high solids, like Mike said, I always pictured low solids as easy. That's a beginner where a beginner starts in water base.
That is correct.
And high solids is a more experienced printer and also an automatic printer, maybe.
Automatic printer, and then when you start getting into more synthetic fabrics, blends and polyesters.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there don't realize that you can print on polyester with water base.
Yeah, like the Under Armour 100% slick. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And it's got a great even stretch, which in your mind you're thinking only plastisol could have stretch properties, but if you put them side by side, you get the stretch and a better feel, a hand feel, with the water base.
And yes, and the reason for that is because you're going to have a smooth surface. That smooth surface is a perception that it's softer, even though it's sitting on top of the garment. So, we're all familiar with plastisol. Every time I tell somebody you got to lay down more ink, they freak out. They're like, no, that's going to be too thick. But with water base, it's the opposite. The more you lay down, the smoother it gets, the softer it feels. Because now you're building up layers on an acrylic or polyurethane base.
And is it smoother because it's water based? Like the molecules can just sort of like if you're making Jell-O, it just falls down and creates that smooth surface versus the texture that's picked up. Plastisol coming through the mesh, so it inherently has a textury feel.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that I've been also trying to help printers understand. Being that plastisol is plastic, then you have a squeegee rubber, then you have friction going back and forth, up and down. At some point, if the weather conditions are not correct, you're going to create static. Okay? Moisture prevents static. So when you're printing with a water-based ink, those fibers tend to lay down a lot better and create that smoother surface. Plastisol, if you have that static anywhere, those fibers just want to stand up.
Yeah.
And because it's a little bit more tackier, it also brings them up. So that's what's giving that texture in plastisol.
Yeah. Is it fibrillation or fibrillation?
I say fibrillation.
Yeah, the jury's out on it, right?
Yeah.
for what, 50 years?
Absolutely.
Nobody knows how to say this word right.
No. But now we have some nice tools also to control that, whether you're doing plastisol or water-based, to try to mat down those fibers. But overseas, there is a lot of, we call it stepping, a lot of screens being used to create that smooth surface. So they're building it up little by little, not all at one time.
Yeah, like in a ridiculous amount of,
Correct.
I mean, like ungodly amount of, like, imagine like these big ovals. Imagine 3 of those connected together and printing the same exact print over and over and over again. It's a registration nightmare, it must be, but I know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
I've seen those operations.
And again, it's the customer that is looking for a certain type of look, a certain type of feel. They don't want to see any of the fabric. That's what they're shooting for, and the reason they do this.
Yeah.
They're trying to cover all the threads that could come through the ink, and they want it to be as smooth as possible.
And then customers will bring these, high brands to you and say, I want my logo like this. And I'm like, we don't have like a 50 color auto. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to run it in revolver mode 50 times.
It's called vinyl.
Yeah.
So also a lot of people get into water base. 1, the soft end fill. Number 2, they hear about discharge, and then that's when that whole door opens about water base.
Yes. And it feels soft. It's a nice feel, but there's so much to take into consideration when you're working with discharge. You got to make sure you're printing on 100% cotton shirts. There is some blends that will work.
I was like, well.
Yeah, 60-40s are probably about the most you want to go. And the reason they work with some blends is because the polyester is white. So it's kind of like the Heather shirts. It has a little bit of polyester in them, but they're white, and there's like what you're wearing right now.
Yeah, and I was speaking to someone that was on the podcast earlier, Ryan. I think you come up and saw him on the floor, and I told him, the best thing you can do is vet your garments. There's going to be some of these next level 6220s that are going to discharge really well. There's going to be some colors that are going to leave that dye behind, not get you back to that off-white canvasy kind of look. So,
and I don't want to use everything today because there's so much information out there. I mean, we can sit here for a few hours, and go over all this stuff. And I think we should leave it for another podcast where we focus only on discharge.
Sure.
Because there is so many things out there that everyone needs to know on how to make sure they're doing it correctly.
And okay, so if we cap this, let me cap this with this. Comfort colors, pigment dyed. Versus a reactive dye. They're 100% cotton, so people are like, "Oh, I'm going to discharge this," and wop wop.
Yeah, why isn't it working?
Why isn't it working?
Unfortunately, the first person that gets blamed for is the ink company.
Yes,
your discharge is not working.
Not me. Everyone knows me. I've preached it from the mountaintops for years now. I do not like comfort colors, and in my shop I would not print comfort colors unless you signed a waiver that you would not bring them back when the dye fell off the shirt and stained the print later, or it bled like a stuck pig. I've got to say stuck pig a few times now. Pretty pleased. Yep. But 100% cotton unless they're pigment dyed.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with discharge.
We got this thing where we're going to be able to do remote podcasts, or remote as also Zoom podcasts. We'll definitely get you back on and talk about that, and get you set up with the Zooms. And because again, we let off a lot of people either start with Hobby Lobby water base, or they're already printing plastisol and they want to get a soft end fill, and they want to move water base, but they're too afraid to. A lot of the processes change. So a lot of it needs to be covered.
I almost want to do this as a practice, but to go buy a speedball kit, but I don't think.
No, I won't let you in. You will not be allowed to have it at Texsource.
Just to show people,
I get it.
Like, hey, I want to feel what it likes to, to be. But what is that ink? That speedball ink? I've never got near it. I mean, I've seen it. But what is speedball?
Speedball would probably be equivalent to like one of our traditional water bases.
Like low
Traditional.
solids, high solids? Or-
It's a low solid, but
Okay.
it's going to dry a lot faster than the newer.
and you don't have the chemistry to even help it, right?
No additives, nothing
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No preservatives, no additives.
No additives.
Fortified with 10 essential vitamins.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for taking your time talking with us. Water base is a lot to cover.
Yeah, we will
A lot
continue this.
of people want to learn more about it and use it. So we need to get you back on. But appreciate you coming on and talking to us. And
I think for today the important thing is making sure that the point we're trying to make out there is that water base is out there. People are asking for it. Every shop should be able to do it. Learn how to do it. I'm not saying convert your shop to 100% water base, but listen to your customers. Listen to what they're asking for and give them what they want.
Yeah.
Water base has a place in every shop.
And Matsui's got a great name in that lane for sure.
They've been around almost 100 years, so I think that's long enough.
And they have a kick-ass logo.
yeah.
the toucan.
Yes.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, everybody
right.
likes it.
Well, thanks again for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank
All
you
right.
for having me.
See ya.